Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Students of the Snake in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Ch16 Taki. A few years, 3 to be exact, had gone by and Oto remained an unknown village in the world. Many ninja in the village were trained in assigned ranks, but few had taken any missions outside the villages yet to avoid as much attention as possible. None even wore their official hitaites when on their missions to avoid letting any witnesses know there was a new hidden village. Although no one had actually left the country yet, they were still not ready to announce themselves to the world. So far only 2 places knew about its existence, its allies Suna and Iwa, who made it official once that Tsuchikage heard the whole story from all the Sunin and saw documented proof of their claim. For the Sunin, Orochimaru and Tsunade mostly stayed in the village helping out the inhabitants. Since they had no official business in Konoha, they could get away with it. Orochimaru was the official leader, so he usually did the cage business for the village while Tsunade ran the hospital. Jiraiya had to stay out sometimes to keep up his spy network and the illusion he was still helping only Konoha, but he made sure to spend his off time in Oto. From the toads he had spy for him in Konoha occasionally, he learned Sarutobi didn't suspect a thing and Hitomi had been replaced in the Hyuga clan without much grief. As for the kids they were watching over, they were getting better with their shinobi skills. Being taught by all 3 Sunin to some degree gave them lots of things to practice and time to bond, and they'd be the best Otonin ever when it was time for them. In fact, Anko, Shizoan, Kabuto, Kurane, and Yamato were all genin now, among the first genin Oto would produce. They weren't put on teams, just told to train together under the Sunin, and when they did real missions they'd be set up accordingly. Anko and Kabuto specialized in snake style, Shizoan and Kurane in slug style, and Yamato in toad style. The young ones, being Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi, were still too young to be genin for a few more years, but they trained with no smaller amount of enthusiasm. Hanabi didn't as much since she was only 3, but she loved to watch and imitate. Naruto was learning the most from all 3 Sunin as expected, and Isaribi was trying to catch up to him. Hinata was learning how to mix new styles of combat into the Jukin to make a different fighting style completely thanks to her mother. Snake style and toad style were the best ones for them to use, and Naruto used both while Isaribi and Hinata focused mostly on snake, with Hinata combining it with the Jukin to create a new original version. So far things were working well for them all with little interference. But that would all someday change. Jiraiya was out of the village doing some serious work and some serious to him research near Taki when everything happened. He had been there for 2 reasons: 1, he thought the open baths would provide him much needed inspiration, and 2, Taki was the closest hidden village to Oto geographically and the next one they wanted to ally with. So he decided to check it out. So far he hadn't seen anything yet, and that included women bathing outdoors. He was starting to wonder if he had been following a false trail. It had happened before. Maybe the women only do that within the village. Just my luck, since it would look bad if I tried to sneak in, and how could I explain to Sarutobi what I was doing here? What do you care what that old monkey thinks? Remember, he kept you in the dark, you owe him nothing. Jiraiya's inner pervert and proverbial shoulder devil told him. Well, you did come here to make an offer with the leader. You're not getting anywhere by hanging around the village borders suspiciously. Jiraiya's proverbial shoulder angel commented. Also, maybe your spy inside will help you find the women if you go up and ask him. Yep, even his good side was a bit perverted. With that in mind, Jiraiya approached the waterfall and ran up it with chakra. As a Sunin, this was no real challenge to him, but it still required all his concentration. Once he was at the top, he made for land right away and was greeted by 4 armed Taki guards. My name's Jiraiya. Tell your leader Shivuki I'm here to see him. He'll know who I am. Apparently one of the guards already knew who he was. Ah, Jiraiya-sama, is Shivuki-sama expecting you? Not really, but that's because I'm here for more than just a high dot. No one but him knew that the leader of Taki Shivuki was actually Jiraiya's informant for the hidden village. All because the Toad Sunin saved him from a wildcat one day, and the cowardly leader insisted on repaying him in the most helpful and safe way. To everyone else, Jiraiya and Shivuki were just acquaintances who met each month for their own reasons. I'll have to escort you to him for security reasons. The guard told him, who just nodded as he was familiar with the procedure. The two walked away, leaving the remaining guards to keep watch. Jiraiya-san, is it that time already? Shivuki said as he said Jiraiya approach. Not really Shivuki-san. I've got something to discuss with you that can't be overheard by anyone. The Toad Sage answered. I see. Come with me. The two walked into a small humble hut and a silence barrier was activated. But before either could get down to business, both saw there was a third person present. Fu-chan, did you sneak in again? Jiraiya saw a young girl close to Naruto's age, maybe a year or two older. The most noticeable thing about her was her lime green hair. She wore a plain white outfit that looked dirty and torn in places and a small red bag tied on her back. Her eyes were red and they looked terrified and sad at the same time, like she had little to be happy about. Once she saw them both, she grabbed a few apples and rolls off the counter and darted out of the hut like a panicked animal. Fu-chan, wait! Shivuki shouted, but it was too late. He sighed. I hope this doesn't keep her away. Who was that? Jiraiya asked since he never knew Shivuki had any kids. Her name's Fu, no family name. She's an orphan and sort of the village urchin. Nobody wants to adopt her because of the social stigma that would come from it, but some people, myself included, do leave out food and supplies for her. They usually do it in secret so they don't become social outcasts themselves. Why would that? Jiraiya started to ask, but then answered his own question with wide eyes. She's a Jinhuriki, isn't she? You never cease to amaze me, Jiraiya-san. Shivuki answered. Yeah, she's the container of the Shishibai no Kabuta Mushi. I never told you before for her security, but there's no helping it now. How, is she treated regularly? The Toad-san almost sounded afraid to ask. Shivuki sighed again. Not well. No one goes out of their way to kill her, but no one really goes out of their way to make her feel welcome either. Kids and adults ignore her, refuse to talk or interact with her, even help her learn anything. It's like they're trying to ignore her to death, so she has to live like a stray cat, surviving off the few handouts from those that are afraid to do more. I'd do more, but with my responsibilities I can't give her the attention she needs. Jiraiya didn't know if he wanted to cry or vomit. But before he could ask more on the subject or bring up the matter of Oto, someone began barging on the door to the hut. And since the silencing barrier was one way, they could hear everything. Shivuki-sama, terrible news. Some intruders have arrived and killed the guards at the waterfall. Jiraiya frowned. Someone must have seen me. Damn it. He looked at Shivuki, who was starting to shake in fear. I'll go take care of this. You just make sure everyone here is unharmed. He said before going outside. People were running into their houses trying to get away from some flames and moving water, implying some jutsus being involved. In the center of the chaos he saw two black-clad shinobi wearing no hitaites trying to stir up trouble. Neither one looked like they were enjoying themselves though, in fact, their facial expressions, or lack thereof, almost looked painted on. There's gotta be more to this than just causing mayhem. Maybe they're making a scene to distract us from someone else looking for something. Jiraiya quickly thought with his years of experience helping him plan. He created a few shadow clones and had them spread out to confirm his theory while he handled the obvious threat. It wasn't that hard once he created two Raisnons to send both targets flying into some rocks hard enough to crack them. The shadow clones came back with a third unconscious intruder. I've got a badass idea on how to get them to talk. When the intruders woke up, they saw they were tied together and hanging over a pot of boiling oil. Jiraiya was standing next to it along with a giant toad he summoned to get the oil he heated up personally. A few inhabitants of Taki formed a crowd to see what was going on. Why don't you tell me what you were up to, or would you rather take a bath? We'll never tell you anything. One of the tied-up men replied. The toad was holding the end of the rope and let them be lowered a little closer to the oil. Close enough that they instinctively curled their toes to avoid being burned. Still say never? Jiraiya asked. Yes. The rope lowered them a little more, so now they had to curl their legs up. How about now? We can't tell you. Our master has forbidden it and gone to great lengths to ensure we never reveal our secrets. One of the trio told him before showing his tongue and the seal placed on it. So it's impossible for them to crack it? I think it's too much of a coincidence that they showed up after me, meaning they must have been trailing me. Or maybe it is just a coincidence and they're after something in Taki. Their attack pattern tells me they were more interested in finding something than drawing me out, and they weren't even prepared to fight me. If they had been trailing me, they would have had some way to counter me if I noticed and fought back. So maybe they really are after something here in Taki. Since you can't speak, I have no more use for you, Jiraiya stated before letting them get drop all the way into the oil and scream in pain. If I was Ibiki, I might have handled that better, but I'm not. They weren't taken out until the screams stopped. So now that that's been taken care of, what was it you came here for again, Jiraiya-san? Shibuki asked once they were back inside his house and the intruder's dead body burns to ashes. What I'm about to say can't be repeated to anyone in Konoha ever, understand? Shibuki looked confused and then shook his head. No, not really. Aren't you from Konoha? Yeah, but I've been asked to make you an offer, and part of the deal is that no matter what your answer is, Konoha can't hear about it or the deal's off and you may gain a new enemy. Shibuki gulped, not eager at all to gain enemies. Okay, this will be just between us. I'm listening. Okay, a new village has been created and is looking to ally itself with Taki. I know the leader of it personally. Since they're close to you, it would be in your interest to consider it. A nearby ally that can respond quickly? I like it, but is it enemies with Konoha? If the two villages were forced to fight one another, what would this new one expect of us since we have a peaceful standing with Konoha? Shibuki asked, trying to avoid putting his village in a conflicted situation. If it came to that, you could declare yourselves neutral. Or you could support whichever side you feel has the better case. Whatever the case, if you accept, you'll gain a nearby partner in combat and trade. Jiraiya's eyes slowly turned to look outside. And also, I'm positive that little green-haired girl can gain some good friends. You can help Fu-chan. How? Let's just say this new village is a good place for people like her. And I know this for an undeniable fact. Shibuki arched an eyebrow. This new village has a Jinkyuriki of its own. Jiraiya nodded. And it's allied with two of the major ninja villages. Shibuki closed his eyes and went over the facts in his head. After a minute, he opened his eyes and answered. Very well, Jiraiya-san. You've never steered me wrong before and I have no reason to doubt you now. Tell the leader of this particular village that Taki will consider them an ally. But, there are two things I'd like you to do for me. Okay, shoot. First, what's the name of this village, and how old is its Jinhyuriki? Shibuki asked. Otogakur, and 6. 6, huh? Well, that's good. For the second thing, I want you to have Fu-chan spend some time with them. Hopefully that will be what it takes to get her to open up people and learn to socialize. Like with Gaara, Jiraiya thought. Okay, but for how long? As long as it takes. Ch17 Bloodlines. The day had finally come that the three Sunin were waiting for. It was Naruto's 9th birthday, and the day he acquired 9 different Kekkei Genkai from the Kyuubi. They had told him and his friends about this on his 8th birthday so he could spend a year thinking of some ideas. Of course the Sunin had some of their own, but since he ultimately was the decider, he needed to observe several to get a good idea of how they worked and how to be creative with them. For the past year Naruto studied Kekkei Genkais of all sort, in books, or by talking with the inhabitants of Oto personally. Most were willing to share some info with him since they knew he was close to all three Sunin and they owed their lives to the trio that got them out of Kiri. Naruto learned that every one of the known bloodlines had some strengths and weaknesses and limits, so he knew he had to keep all that in mind. There was no perfect bloodline, just handy ones. For this day, a few had gathered to see this interesting acquiring of power. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro came from Suna, all aware of Naruto's Jinhyuriki status. Few came as well, although for all basic purposes the girl practically lived in Oto by now. Very little had changed about her social status in Taki even when she went back, so Shibuki let her have a semi-permanent home in Oto too as long as she came back from time to time. By the time she became genin she would have to declare one village a full-time home and the council in Taki was looking to force her to decide in their favor. If only to keep their Jinhyuriki in check. Everyone who resided in the Oto Tower came to see this as well. Even a few who didn't reside there wanted to see. Two of Oto's Chiryunin guards Kimimaro and Teiwa attended while the rest stayed at their posts. These two guards were Naruto's favorites and the ones he spent the most time with. Since Oto had yet to participate in any actual Chiryunin exams, they were only ranked Chiryunin because Orochimaru saw fit to give them that rank. Another one of his friends, Haku, showed up, along with her mother and stepfather, since he got to know her when he asked about her clan's Kekkei Genkai. He also found out that she and her mother were the last remaining users of it, since her biological father turned them all into the Mizu cage for a profit. Or he could have just killed them for fun. Naruto felt bad for her and has been her good friend ever since. Everyone had gathered in one of the large underground rooms with Naruto in the center. They were giving him some space in case the Kyuubi's chakra acted up. "You ready for this, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked. "Yes, Ero-jisan." "You sure this will work?" Naruto asked, since the initial plan was for him to just try and contact the Kyuubi on his own. Even tough, he had yet to do that so far. Not entirely. But it's worth a shot. "Great advice, Jiraiya." Tsunade sarcastically mumbled. "You're such an inspiration." Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. "Here goes nothing. Wish me luck." He heard them all whisper it, then nothing. After a bit it was too quiet. Something must be wrong. He opened his eyes, but saw a large cage instead of the room he was supposed to be in. Two red eyes appeared from behind the bars of the cage. "Ah, so it's finally that time. Good. You're the Kyuubi, right?" Naruto asked, not that afraid since he had been prepared for this. "Indeed. And you must know why you're here." "Yep. I've been waiting for this day for about a year." Naruto answered. "And I won't end up like Fu-chan did." As the Jinhyuriki for the Shishibai, Fu should have received 7 Kekkei Genkais on her 7th birthday. However, she didn't know about this until that exact date and didn't get in touch with the Shishibai in time to do all that. She did at least have enough time to bargain for 1 Kekkei Genkai, and that was enough to ensure the Shishibai wouldn't die with her, but she still felt cheated. At least like with Gaara, who also only had 1, she didn't have to worry about the time limits Naruto would have to. And with only 1 rather than 7, Taki couldn't force her to breed with multiple men later on. It looked like the large fox was grinning. "I've been waiting quite a while longer. So let's make a deal, shall we? 9 Kekkei Genkais in exchange for me being able to leave your body safely when you finally do die. Sure, it means I'll have a long wait ahead of me, but it's so much better than dying with him." "Sounds good to me. And I've already got all 9 chosen. Then tell me about them one at a time and I can make the changes happen. And the more detailed the better." Kyuubi told him. "Wonder how that mark will factor in, if at all." "Okay then, here's the first one." Everyone watching Naruto meditate waited for a while and then tensed up when they saw a faint red glow around his body. Their initial impulse was to snap him out of it, but a sense of calm remained in the air and on Naruto's face, averting their concern. The glow remained for 9 minutes even, and the only sign of discomfort was a brief look of pain on the young boy's face for about half a minute. Once the glow faded, Naruto opened his eyes. "I think that's it. Do you feel any different?" Hinata asked with much concern. "Not really, except for this weird itch on my shoulder," Naruto answered as he scratched where his curse mark was. "Do I look any different?" Everyone shook their head negatively. "Hey Ero-jisan, can you take a look at this?" The fox said the mark might be gone now. Everyone in the room familiar with the curse mark perked up at hearing this. For years the Sunin were trying to get a better understanding of it and a cure for it. So far no such luck, although with a few notes they salvaged from the creator Amaka they did at least learn the source was the blood of a young boy named Jugo. He had no known family, but he had a Kekkei Genkai that made him shapeshift into a more feral form when he was aggravated to fight, which he didn't enjoy. Jugo was currently contained in a holding cell to ensure he did no harm, which he preferred. But even with him contained, they were still no closer to finding a way to be rid of the mark. Jiraiya went up to the young boy and checked his shoulder. It's gone," he gasped. "But how?" Naruto shrugged. "Dunno. The fox said something about his own power overpowering it when he made the changes." "Can it do the same for us?" Kurane asked. Most likely not. Tsunade gently answered. Remember, Naruto's system is used to the Kyuubi's chakra, so he can use it without being too hurt, but you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. Also, I'm getting the impression that it wasn't an intended effect, so we still wouldn't know what to do even if it was safe. Kurane sighed in resignation while Anko ignored the issue. So tell us, Otauto, which ones did you get? No one knew which Kekkei Genkais the blonde was going to select. Some good ones. Even the fox was impressed at most of them. Orochimaru grinned. Why don't you show us instead of tell us? He then created a shadow clone to serve as the boy's test dummy. Okay then, here's number 1. Naruto stated as he got up to his feet. He closed his eyes, then everyone saw veins bulge around them, making 3 girls in the room drop their jaws. When he opened his eyes, everyone saw they were white like the Byakugan, but the small visible pupil was shaped like a 4-point star if one looked close enough. I call this one the Neo Byakugan. How's it different than our own? Hitomi asked. I can't see as far as you can, but I can see in sharper detail, and I can see more of a person's insides than just their chakra network. Tsunade looked impressed. Interesting, perfect eyes for a surgeon or someone looking to use pressure points. Any descendants who inherit those eyes would make great tracker and medic shinobi. Number 2. Naruto said before closing his eyes again. The veins receded, and when he reopened, his eyes were bright orange and had 2 tomos in them, spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Neo Sharingan. Orochimaru's grin widened. Our own version of the Sharingan. Not bad, but how is this one different? Well, instead of hypnotizing other people or casting genjutsus, I can break hypnotism and other genjutsus with this. And I don't have to kill someone important to upgrade them, instead I have to save a precious life, not end one. Kyuubi seemed really insistent on things like this, saying he had personal issues with the normal Sharingan. But other than that, it should be the same. One thing he didn't know was that with the Kyuubi's chakra in him, he wouldn't have to worry about going blind later. So Oto will be able to have an Uchiha-like family, but with more incentives to help others? Nice. Jiraiya thought with a light grin. Naruto returned his eyes to normal. Number 3. No one noticed any physical changes, but he did 3 quick hand signs and Orochimaru's clone got frozen solid. Hayaton. But I couldn't think of anything different, so I kept it the same as Haku-chan's. I figured we could use more ice wielders. Thank you for the consideration, Naruto-kun. Haku's mother told him. Orochimaru dispelled his clone and the ice around it shattered on the ground before he made another one. Go on, Naruto. Okay, here's number 4. He made a few more hand signs and Orochimaru's clone became entangled in tree roots. I went with the Mokuton but made it so girls can use it too. Now Baa-chan doesn't have to worry about it dying out. Tsunade smiled warmly at the boy. Even though Yamato had already proven he could use the Mokuton, they always feared he couldn't pass it down to his descendants since it wasn't naturally his. Orochimaru got rid of this clone and Jiraiya got rid of the roots with a small fire jutsu. A new clone was made and Naruto was ready to show off his 5th Kekkei Genkai. He made some hand signs, and the next thing anyone saw was Orochimaru's clone being skewered by several large needles sticking out of the ground. Tetsuton, because few people have ever encountered the metal sub-element and it's a great way to make weapons for myself and my allies. A new clone was made and the metal spikes were taken away to be given to a smith shop for forging. Naruto got ready to show off his 6th gift. That's the last of the elemental stuff. Number 6 starts off a list of a few new things. He did a few hand signs and then Orochimaru's clone started levitating in the air. Everyone looked in awe, and then it fell to the ground and looked like it was being crushed by a rock. When it dispelled, Orochimaru's memories showed a sense of immense weightlessness and then too much weight. Naruto, what was that? Gravity control. Basically I can make things or people weigh less or more, and if I do it the right way I can even make myself or others fly, but I'm in complete control. Handy for moving things around, and helpful in battle if the enemy is unbalanced or too heavy to move. Naruto explained. Wow, how practical. Good one. Temari answered, especially loving the flying part since she was trying to work on using wind that way. Can someone fill in for me here? Orochimaru asked. Don't want to use too much chakra. He may be a Sunin, but even he didn't have the chakra amounts to repetitively use the clone jutsu. Sure. Jiraiya said before making his own clone. Do your worst, kid. Okay. Number 7 is like this. The color on his body seemed to pale, not as much as the snake Sunin, and his hair went white like it had been bleached. For this one, I need your clone to hit me. What? Everyone asked, not expecting that. Just try to hit me. You'll understand then. And make it a good one. Oh, okay then. Jiraiya's clone said before balling up a fist and aiming it for the 9-year-old, even though he wasn't trying to hurt him. He aimed for the shoulder and the impact should have been no more harmful than a spanking. But instead of making a connection, the clone's fist actually went through the boy's shoulder, like he wasn't really there. The surprise and sudden off-balance made the duplicate Toad Sage fall face first on the ground, again passing through Naruto's body. Everyone looked at Naruto like they had just seen a ghost, making him smile. Ghost body. Makes everything go through me and lets me walk through walls. He then suddenly vanished into thin air. And I can become invisible too. Great for close-up spying and wearing the opponent out or scaring them. Wait, Naruto, get visible again and try and hit Jiraiya. Tsunade told him. He did just that, but his fist went right through the clone's body too. Guess the one drawback is you can't fight back. Not unless I become solid again. Naruto said before he became tangible and blonde again. Okay, for the 8-1, I need Hinata-chan and Haku-chan to come here instead. Why? Both girls' mothers asked, not that they believed he'd really hurt them. Let's just say none of the Sunin are exactly good testers for this one. Hinata-chan and Haku-chan are perfect. The boy answered. Without waiting for their mother's approval, both aforementioned girls walked up to him with kind grins. Both trusted the boy with their lives and showed no amount of fear. What do you want us to do, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Naruto suddenly gained red rings around his eyes much like Gaara had. Try and use your own Kekkai Genkai to attack me. The two girls shared a look before giving him an, if you insist, look. Hinata used the hand signs needed to activate the Byakugan when the user was still young and inexperienced, while Haku tried a short set to create some ice senbon. The two finished at the same time, but nothing happened. What the heck? Haku asked herself before trying again, only to get the same results. What did you just do? Number 8, Unbloodline. Naruto answered. Anyone within 10 meters of me who has a Kekkai Genkai becomes unable to use it. The red around my eyes is there to alert my allies if they have one so they can get some distance. Not bad, considering how most ninja who have a Kekkai Genkai become dependent on it for their fighting style. Good way to handicap some of your opponents. Jiraiya thought out loud. And even if his enemy doesn't have a Kekkai Genkai, he has several others to use. For my last one, I'd like Baa-chan personally to step up and test this out. Naruto said as the red around his eyes faded. Trust me on this one, Baa-chan. I think you more than anyone else will appreciate this one. When he finished, he gained 2 thin black streaks down his face under his eyes much like Jiraiya. Hinata and Haku stepped out of the way while Tsunade stepped towards him, wondering what would happen to her that he didn't want demonstrated on a clone. She kept a cautious eye on him as he stepped forward and quickly poked her hand. What the hell was that? She started to ask before she felt a light tickle spread over her body and she started feeling more rejuvenated for some reason. But she got worried once she saw she was actually getting shorter. What did you just do to me? Her voice sounded different now, and when she looked around the room, she saw everyone had wide eyes but only her teammates had dropped jaws. Anyone got a mirror? Naruto asked. No one did, but Haku's mother was able to make one out of ice and showed Tsunade her reflection. Now her eyes went wide and her jaw dropped. She looked exactly like she did when she was a genin, down to the last detail, even bust size, with her clothes practically hanging off her since they didn't change. What did you just do? The 9th Kekkai Genkai, age control. All I have to do is touch someone, and I can make them as old as I want or as young as I want. And it doesn't wear off. You'll stay like that until I make you get older or you simply grow older naturally. Perfect for disabling opponents if they're too young or old to fight back the way they're used to, or help out our own guys by making them the right age to fight. Naruto explained. I won't have to wear a henge all the time anymore. That's great. Tsunade thought to herself. I won't have to die of old age someday? Terrific. Orochimaru thought to himself. Maybe if he makes me younger I'll be more appealing to the ladies. Jiraiya thought to himself. Hey Naruto, can you make me older again? How about 29? Tsunade asked. Sure. Naruto said before touching her hand and making her become a 29-year-old woman again. Ji-san? Arrow Jiken? You guys wanna become younger again? Heck yeah. Both answered together for different reasons. By the end of the day all three Sunin were back in their prime and Oto had its secret weapon, waiting to become an official shinobi. CH-18 Council. Congratulations, you are now all officially genin of Otogakure. And with the recent changes made by Otokage-sama, you are possibly the first generation of Oto shinobi to be able to make a name for yourselves in our village. The Chiryunin instructor at the academy told the small classroom filled with a few Hitayate-wearing teens. The symbol on each plate was a musical note. Oto had been around for about 10 years now, 9.5 to be more accurate, and while they had been training ninja of all ranks, they still operated in absolute secrecy within Land of Rice only. About 4 months ago, Orochimaru overturned that policy and told everyone that Oto ninja could tell what their home was and where their Hitayates on missions if they wanted to, but they still couldn't tell anyone where exactly the village was located. And since then they had been able to take missions within Land of Wind and Land of Earth too. But soon they would be known everywhere. Orochimaru probably made the point across best as, it's time for the sound to be heard. The instructor started listing off the teams. Only 2 of them were of any particular interest to one student, a 13-year-old Naruto. Team 1 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hibiki, and Isaribi Mikai. Your sensei will be Anko Mitarashi. Team 2 will consist of Zaku Abumi, Doso Kinyuta, and Kintsuki. Your sensei will be Kabuto Yakushi. The rest of the list was just noise to him, however short it was. Hinata, who was sitting right next to him, smiled and hugged him from the side. Can you believe it, Naru-kun? We're on the same team. She said in a whisper, barely containing her joy. Terrific. Who do you think was the one to decide on that? Your mom, or Ji-san? He whispered back. Does it matter? No, guess not. Elsewhere in the room, a purple-haired girl and a brown-haired girl looked at the young couple with envy. Great, she gets to be with him even more? Now I'll never have a chance to get closer to him. You know what we gotta do today, right? Tsunade asked Orochimaru with Jiraiya in the room too. Yeah, I didn't forget. Let's save it for after he gets done with the second test for Genin. Won't that be saved for tomorrow though? Jiraiya asked. Orochimaru smirked. Usually, but Anko-chan's the one testing him. And you know she won't wait. Or go easy on him either. At least not too easily. Tsunade corrected. 2 hours later Tsunade saw a battered and bruised Naruto walking down the hall to his room. He looked like he had just been in a fight with a small but pissed off bear. Yep, that's Anko's style all right. She thought with a small grin. Hey Naruto, feeling okay? I'm fine. I've been through worse. He said, feigning his well-being. Sad thing is I can actually believe that. Tsunade grimly thought. Just so you know, me and the others want you to come down to the council meeting room in an hour. Bring Hinata with you so we can discuss this with her too, but we'll talk to you two one at a time with you first. No problem. I'm going to go lay down now. The young boy replied before going into his room and crashing on his bed. Poor boy's got a tough road ahead of him. But I'm sure he'll do just fine. Tsunade commented to herself before walking away. Any idea what this is all about? Hinata asked as she and Naruto approached the door to the council room. Both had recovered from their little test at Anko's hands, but only Naruto was at 100% now. Not at all. But I doubt it's bad news. Naruto answered. Hey, maybe they're offering some sort of betrothal contract between us. Hinata blushed. I was thinking the same thing. Oka-san keeps saying she might do something like that when we're older. Naruto and Hinata were probably the best known young couple in all of Oto. While Naruto was seen with lots of female friends, Hinata was apparently the only one he had ever been romantic with or even kissed. She was his only official girlfriend, and while all the other girls could accept that, many of them were jealous of Hinata. Shizune walked out of the room and smiled when she saw the two of them. Good, right on time. Ready, Naruto-kun? Yeah. He then gave Hinata a brief kiss on her cheek before walking away with Shizune. Be right back. The council room was filled with members of both sides. Like Konoha, there were shinobi members and an equal number of civilian members. But unlike Konoha, the number was smaller, with 5 members for both sides. And their authority was kept in check to ensure they didn't act like they were the ones in charge. For example, the civilian members couldn't call meetings if the subject of it was ninja-based. And the ninja members weren't allowed to make laws specifically for their own clans unless it was a matter of village security. There were 2 reasons the Council of Oto was smaller than the one in Konoha. 1. Having a smaller council meant making decisions would be much easier. And 2. There were fewer ninja clans in Oto. Sure, several came from Kiri, but some people who weren't in great shape didn't survive the long trip due to trouble along the way. Also, when Oto made alliances with Suna, Iwa, and Taki, they gave each village a clan or 2 in exchange for better trade and a promise of being hired for missions when they were ready. So now Oto was down to 6 clans total. The 6 clans were the following: the Kagaya, a bone-wielding clan with brutal fighting styles; the Fuma, a clan native to Land of Rice with various techniques; the Mamakai, an ice-wielding clan from Kiri formerly known under a different name; the Inigamo, a clan of people with 6 arms and spider-like abilities; the Sakya, a twin-favoring clan with a body-merging Kekii Genkai; and the Hibiki, which was really the 3 renamed Hyugas. Technically the Mamakai and Hibiki didn't really count as clans since their numbers were so small, but the Mamakai, the more established of the 2, were allowed a seat on the council to prevent ties in votes. The Hibiki would get a seat when their numbers increased. At the head of the room were the 3 Sunin. Orochimaru was the acting cage and overall tiebreaker. Tsunade was the representative of the civilian side since she worked at Oto's hospitals, and Jiraiya was the representative of the ninja side, when he was actually in town. In his absence, Kabuto was the representative. Hello everyone. What can I do for you? Naruto politely greeted. Usually he could get away with being unorthodox, but Tsunade made sure he knew when and how to show proper respect, and this was one of those times. Also, the relatives of 3 of his friends were on this council and he didn't want to look dishonorable in front of them. Just sit down and hear what we have to tell you, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru told him. When the boy was seated, he continued. From what I recently heard from Anko-chan, you're now officially a genin of Oto. And that means we need to tell you something rather important regarding your future in the village. I can still become Otokage someday, right? Naruto nervously asked. His dream was to become Otokage someday, preferably the Nidaime, which Tsunade was currently the candidate for if something happened to Orochimaru. Oh, this won't interfere with your goal. Not too much at least. But it may make things a little more difficult for you. Orochimaru answered. Naruto-kun, as you are aware, you currently hold 9 Kekii Genkais in your blood. And each of your descendants will only be able to inherit 1. With that in mind, we have something we need you to do. Yeah? What is it? Naruto asked. You must have children with 9 different women, allowing each of them to pass on 1 of your Kekii Genkais each. Preferably at least 1 son each. Not exactly the CRA, more of a clan creation act. Naruto looked blindsided. No, I can't do that. Why not? Jiraiya asked. It wouldn't be fair to Hina-chan. I know she'd have no problem having a family with me later on, but to make her share me with 8 other girls would be wrong for her. I can't do that to her. Naruto answered. Jiraiya groaned mentally. Great. The one person in the country who's being told to have multiple women, and he's a one-woman man. Oh, where did I go wrong? Naruto, as admirable as that is in a man, there's something else you need to consider about this. Tsunade spoke up. Each of your Kekii Genkai is a gift that should be able to help us out for generations, not just until you die. To do that, you would basically need to have at least 9 kids, each inheriting a different one. Having one woman bear 9 children or more is actually hazardous to her. But what about surrogate mothers? Naruto asked. That way you get the numbers you want and I don't betray my girlfriend. Consider genetics too. Tsunade added. One way to help the clans thrive is genetic variety. If there's little genetic difference between them, we may run the risk of inbreeding in the future. We believe that the Kekii Genkai you supply will affect your sperm enough so that the paternal DNA will be different between any 2 children with different bloodlines, thus the potential for inbreeding will be significantly reduced. If the maternal DNA is identical, it could pose problems. Naruto looked a little bothered. Do you actually think my kids would commit incest? What? No, of course not. What I meant was that if you succeed in creating several clans, the population of Oto will increase substantially within a few decades. And if a good portion of the village's population is significantly genetically linked, then the only options would be inbreeding, extinction, or bringing in foreign genes to increase the variety, which isn't guaranteeable. What we're suggesting for you is the best way to avoid such a problem. Tsunade explained. Naruto didn't look too convinced. Even so, if Hina-chan says no, then so will I. I will not hurt her like that. In that case, what would you do if she says yes? Jiraiya asked. Naruto didn't have a ready answer for that. What would I do? Would Hina-chan even consider the possibility? Wouldn't it still be unfair to her even if she consented? I don't know what to think. All he said was I don't know. Naruto, all we're asking is that you at least consider the possibility. We can't make you do this if it makes you uncomfortable. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be right. But remember, would you really be more comfortable reducing your girlfriend to being little more than a baby factory like Kyumo would have done? At least with other women to help out you can take the strain off her. Orochimaru added. Naruto hung his head as he let this all sink in. Do you need a decision anytime soon? No, take your time. If you would like to go somewhere private and think this over, you may. And on your way out, tell your girlfriend to come inside so we can inform her of this as well. You are dismissed. Orochimaru answered. Thank you. Naruto politely said as he stood up and left, his face showing several signs of discomfort. After he left the room, Hinata walked in and took a seat where he had been. Her own expression showed she was mildly nervous. Hello, Honorable Councilman. To what do I owe this pleasure? Hinata-san, as we all are aware, you are in a relationship with Naruto-kun. How serious would you say it is? Orochimaru asked to get things started. The former Hyuga blushed deeply at the question. I thought you already knew that. I love him and have told him several times. And he's said it to me before too. I'm glad to hear that, but it makes what we're going to tell you all that much harder then. Orochimaru said. In case you aren't already aware of this, Naruto's many bloodlines are a boon for this village. And we have a responsibility to ensure they stay around for generations. Which is why we feel it's best in the long run if Naruto-kun were to have offspring with multiple women. 9 total preferably. Hinata looked stunned. You want him to what? Tsunade was the one to answer her. We feel that it's best if Naruto were to have children with several different women, as it would help his Kekii Genkais flourish in the village. You must know that if you were the only mother of them, that would require you to have at least 9 children, which would be dangerous to your body. So basically you have only 2 real options: allow your boyfriend to have 8 mistresses or use 8 surrogate mothers. You can try to have them all yourself, but we strongly recommend otherwise. And just so you know, Naruto doesn't want to hurt you, so if you say no to the whole idea he will too. Hinata sat there and went over it all. They want me to share Naruto-kun with 8 others? Well, it's not like I can't think of a few candidates that would be glad to, but still, Naruto-kun is supposed to be mine. How can I be special to him if I'm just one of 9? One more thing you should know, Hinata. Jiraiya added, regaining the girl's attention. Your mother and the 3 of us did write up a betrothal contract between you and Naruto stating that you'd be the one true wife whether or not you agree to this. So you won't have to worry about being less important in Naruto's eyes. If you accept the contract, that is. Hinata's eyes lit up, but she still didn't look convinced. She looked at all of the other council members. Do you all support this idea? They all nodded. Which do you support more, the mistresses or the surrogates? All 5 of the Shinobi Council members supported the mistress notion. 3 members of the civilian side supported it too, but 2 of them voted in favor of surrogate mothers. The 3 Sunin said they felt the mistress idea was the smarter one overall. Hinata sighed in defeat. Can I at least think this over? Everyone nodded. Take your time. And discuss this with Naruto-kun too, since he feels bothered by the whole thing as well. You are dismissed. Orochimaru told her. Hinata slowly walked out of the room and without realizing it went to Naruto's room, where she saw him sitting on his bed looking out the window. She sat down next to him, alerting him to her presence. They told you? He asked, and she nodded slowly. I don't want to betray you. She kissed his cheek softly. I know. I never thought otherwise. I just don't know what we should do about it. Ch19 Confusion. Later that night, Hinata ate dinner with just her mother and sister. Normally she would have invited Naruto to celebrate becoming a genin, and Isaribi, and Anko too, but she had something she wanted to discuss with her family in private. She just wasn't sure how to bring it up. Something wrong, Ne-san? Hanbai asked. You've barely touched your curry. Just got a lot on my mind, Amuto-chan. Hinata told her sister. I bet I know what. Hitomi briefly mentioned before taking a bite of her own curry. Oka-san, what do you think of the whole idea? Hinata suddenly asked. Which one? Hitomi asked. She wasn't toying with her daughter, instead she was referring to the fact they were 2 issues bound to be on Hinata's mind, the multiple women issue and the betrothal contract. The problem was which one was she more focused on? You know which one. Hinata said with her eyes beginning to narrow. Hanabi, why don't you go eat in another room please? Hitomi asked her younger daughter. Hanabi's gaze darted between her mother and sister, as if trying to deduce what was going on between them. She sighed and stood up with her plate. Okay. Let me know when you're done. When she left, Hitomi decided to address the most likely thing on Hinata's mind. I understand that the idea may bother you, Hinata, but I've thought it over several dozen times and I can safely say I agree with the Sunin's decision. Why? Hinata quietly asked. You know me and Naruto-kun are close. Why would you try something that might ruin it? In all fairness, the first time the idea was mentioned was when you and Naruto-kun were only 6 years old. You two were only just friends then. I wasn't so sure how serious you two would come along, how could I? But haven't you noticed how I always taught you to accept his other female friends and not get jealous and possessive of him? Even share your time with him to avoid appearing domineering. Hinata arched her eyebrows. So you said all that hoping when this day came I'd have no problem sharing him. Some would, but not entirely. Even if Naruto-kun was limited to one woman only, it would still be a good idea for that one woman to allow him to have friends of his own choosing. I mean, you wouldn't like it if Naruto-kun told you you couldn't have any male friends outside him, right? No, but still, you're all asking me to share Naruto with others, and why exactly should I say yes? Hinata asked, currently unable to make eye contact with her mother. For one very good reason, Hinata. Hitomi answered as seriously as possible. Let me explain. Naruto-kun has to have 9 children for the village. Now that's a minimum, not a maximum. Let's say you keep him all to yourself. That would mean you'd basically be pregnant non-stop for almost a whole decade. That's a huge burden on your body and a huge responsibility. And let's say you use surrogate mothers to take the load off. That would result in you and Naruto having to raise 9 babies all at once, rather than one at a time. Maybe having friends or family, or even a nanny help you out, would be a way to deal with it, but that's still a rather daunting task. And tough on your finances too. Now consider the idea that you allow 8 other women to have children with Naruto-kun that are their very own. 1. It takes the burden of multiple births off you. 2. It gives the village the numbers and genetic variety it needs for the idea. And 3. If they're the real mothers, they'll help in raising the children, just like nannies, but for free, and they'll be able to provide more income for raising them, which, trust me, is a big help in motherhood. Also, You'd only have the pressure of being the mother of one child rather than all 9, which will be good for your health and sanity. Sure, the cost of such a good option is having to share Naruto-kun intimately, so that's why I insisted on the betrothal contact for you two. That way, you've be the one official wife, the alpha female so to speak. The way I see it, it's really the best option for you. Hinata's shoulders trembled and her fingers twitched, making it look like she was having a mild nervous breakdown. After a moment she stopped moving and sighed before giving her mother a tired look. When you put it that way, I really don't have a choice but to agree. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm trying to pressure you. Hitomi added softly. It's okay. You're my mother and only want what's best for me. This may not be a perfect solution, but it's still the lesser of several evils I guess. Hinata's eyes then got a stern look in them. But still, I'm not going to let just any girl be with him. That same night, when Naruto went inside his bedroom, he was really surprised to see Hinata waiting for him on his bed. Hi. Hina-chan, what are you doing here? He was really trying to block out the perverted explanations that went through his mind just then. Naruto-kun, we need to talk. She said in a calm voice that held a hint of dread in it. He sat down next to her and gently held her hand, calming her nerves. Naruto-kun, I know what the council and Otokage asked of you this afternoon, and I've had some time to think over it all. I've been thinking it over too. It sure is a big thing. He commented. Yeah, it is. I know it doesn't sound so great at first, but when I think about all the possible things we can do about it, and the consequences, I get the feeling that what the council suggested really is the best idea. So, if you want, I'll share you with 8 other girls. She then looked right into his eyes. But only on 2 conditions. What? Naruto asked. 1. We accept the betrothal contract first and I become your one true wife. That way, I'm the only one who takes on your name, I'm the one who claims your virginity, and I'm the first one to have your child. And 2, we both decide who the other girls are. If I have to share my future husband, I have a right to have a say in who I'm sharing him with. Hinata insisted. Fair enough. Naruto replied. He was actually surprised Hinata was going to let this happen. You sure you're okay with this? Am I okay with this? Not really. To be honest, I wish it would be just you and me and we'd get to have 2 or 3 kids when we're older. But that's not what can happen. So we gotta make the best of this situation. When she finished, she rested her head on his chest and he placed his arm on her shoulder. The 2 13-year-olds just sat there in silence for a bit, nothing needing to be said just then. But after a bit, Naruto did say something. Hina-chan, I just thought of something. You said you wanted to accept the contract, but when exactly did you want us to become married? He hadn't been told about the betrothal contract in his meeting, but Tsunade had informed him afterwards. It was designed to ensure that no girl had a legal claim to being Naruto's wife other than Hinata. If they accepted it, they were instantly engaged, and if not, any other girl could try and claim him for their husband. Not that they were likely to succeed, but they could still try. Not sure. Part of me wants to say right away, since as registered ninja we can now, but another part of me wants to wait until we're closer to Chiryunin. I definitely don't want us to try having any kids before then. I was thinking the same thing. Naruto stated. Also, I hate to bring this up, but how exactly do we handle the other girls? Hinata slowly turned to look right at her boyfriend, but her gaze held no hostility to his question. Well, I'm thinking we don't just announce this to the village. I think we should only accept girls that genuinely care about you, and if we make this public there's no way of knowing if they really do. Let's see who shows signs of care for you without knowing this. I can already think of a few who might fit the bill. To be honest, so can I. Naruto hesitantly added. Really? Who? Hinata asked. He was afraid to answer, but felt trapped. I think Haku-chan, Fu-chan, and Sasami-chan would at least like to hear the option. Hinata didn't look bothered like he half expected her to. I think Isarabi-chan and Kin-chan would as well. So, assuming they all say yes, That means we already have 5 girls selected and 3 more to. But I guess we don't need to be in any hurry. Naruto thought aloud. Good. I want us to have some time for just us anyway. Hinata commented and added a small kiss on his cheek. I may have to share you, but that doesn't mean I have to do it from the beginning. The next morning, Naruto and Hinata met up in the tower's private training area to meet their sensei and teammate. Anko was already there sitting next to a tree that was often used for target practice, and Isaribi was sitting down with her feet in the water. Hi you two. Don't tell me you already got down to business so soon. Anko teased the young couple as they entered her sight. Even though he was used to his surrogate sister's teasing, Naruto still got red from her comment. Nei-chan. Hinata meanwhile noticed Isaribi gave the blonde a longing look that said many things, one being, why can't I be the one with him, and another being, I really hope our sensei is wrong. Her own thoughts on this were, maybe we should approach her first. Back to business. Anko said as she stood up before her team. As you may have figured from yesterday, I'm not going to go easy on you just because we've known each other for a long time. Once you decided to become shinobi, that meant you were ready to handle a life of pain and danger. My job is to make sure you don't become victims, and what better way to do that than have the strength to fight back against anything that tries to make you its bitch. Now, since I already know you've all received some training from the Sunin, that gives you a good advantage over other genin and lets me know where you already stand. I've found something for all 3 of you to work on individually for the time being. Anko continued, then looked at Naruto. You Otauto so far seem the hardest. Thanks to the Sunin's help he already knew the shadow clones, Raise Non, and basic medical ninjutsu. Finding something new for him wasn't going to be simple. I'll get you more focused on chakra control first since you're still a little rough around the edges there. But soon I promise I'll have something fun for you. He smiled, and Anko turned to Hinata. You're the second hardest, but I'm sure I can help you get a better handle on your taijutsu and maybe improve it a little. Then she faced Isaribi. You're the easiest simply because you have the most room to grow. I'll start you out with something simple to see what kind of progress you can make. Anko then looked around as if suspecting someone was watching. When she was satisfied there was none, she looked back to Hinata and Isaribi. And one more thing, I'm also going to help you two with your mark. You two can already use the first stage, right? The 2 girls nodded and activated their marks to show they could. Hinata was covered in lines that looked like teardrops in a chain link fashion, while Isaribi was covered with gentle wavy lines that gave the impression of a current on her skin. Anko smirked and activated her own mark, making it look like many small snakes were covering her. Good. Now I'm going to help you learn to use it in a real battle and maybe someday access stage 2. Aren't we supposed to wait until we're Jounin for that? Isaribi asked. Since Orochimaru couldn't figure out how to get rid of the mark, only create it, he settled on a plan regarding it. He offered the mark to all his Jounin level shinobi, telling them the benefits and costs and letting it be completely voluntary. It was actually accepted rather well by almost all the Jounin, and all who had it formed the village defense unit similar to Konoha. In Oto, they were known as the Altos. Tsunade was a little uncomfortable about this, but Orochimaru pointed out it wasn't much different than Hoshi and their Kyojaku arts. This was the secret technique of Oto that no other village could easily predict or counter. Normally yes, but considering how we got our marks the rules have to be a little bent for us. Anko answered. Think of it as our squad's secret weapon. Naruto's second source of chakra should be our last resort. How am I going to be able to handle it properly? Naruto asked. We got some scrolls written for you by Roshi-san and Han-san from IWA. They've got lots of info for you to handle Kyuubi's chakra in case you resort to it. Hopefully your bloodlines will prevent that, but it can happen so we'll be prepared. But for now, let's get started on the first lesson, tree walking. Anko finished. Ch20 Lizur. Team training with Anko could probably best be described as voluntary torture. No matter what exercise she had her students learn, she always found a way to make it potentially lethal to them. The tree walking technique, which all 3 already knew before they even graduated, had a barrage of kunao thrown at them with venomous snakes hidden in the trees as well. The water walking exercise, which was new to them and taught in the second week, was pretty much the same thing. Then she made them try it on a moving current. Anko almost refused to let them do any D-rank missions. She kept insisting their time could be better used to focus on training directly rather than indirectly. But she did let them try one at least once a week to give them some money to have fun with. Hinata and Isarabi didn't mind too much because it gave them both a chance to be around their favorite guy. And while Isarabi felt she couldn't be with him the way she wanted to, she was at least glad she was on his team rather than another of his fangirls. After their 11th day of training, where they were all expected to use kunaus to hit targets while they were upside down, while said targets fired senbon back at them. Anko was really hardcore when it came to training apparently. But afterwards, with a small amount of injuries, Hinata and Isarabi had a moment alone. Naruto was currently spending some time with Teiwa since he enjoyed giving her some company while she guarded one of Oto's gates. She also enjoyed his company too, as he was the only one to make her laugh and appreciated her dirty jokes. Hinata and Isarabi were relaxing in the pool of the tower, both wearing bikinis since that's all they had in an effort to catch Naruto's eye. And both were orange too, although they kept saying it was just coincidence. At the moment Hinata was just floating lazily on her back while Isarabi was swimming around completely submerged, just the way she liked it. When Isarabi came up for air, which seemed like once every 5 minutes but was more like every 3, Hinata decided to bring up the issue on her mind. "Hey Isarabi-chan, got a moment?" "Sure Hinata-chan. What's up?" "Well, a while ago me and Narukun were told to do something by the council and Otokage-sama. It involves getting 8 other girls into the plan. And you're the first girl I can think of that might enjoy this." Hinata explained with a small embarrassed blush. "Oh, does this involve your little harem?" Isarabi asked. Hinata practically face-faulted in the water. "What?" she asked after she coughed up the water she almost swallowed. "How did you?" "Your little sister told me. Apparently she overheard you and your mother talk about sharing Naruto-kun with others, and spied on you again when you talked to him about it. She then got me and a few other girls together and told us all." Isarabi explained. "I should have known Namuto-chan would have been too curious to really stay out of this." Hinata thought semi-bitterly. "So I'm actually the first girl you're approaching for this?" Isarabi asked. "Gotta admit I'm flattered and tempted." "Just tempted?" Hinata asked. "I'd have thought she'd be begging for this. I'm not against the idea. Believe me, I'm willing to tolerate sharing. But to be honest, I don't really want to unless Naruto-kun himself asks me to be a part of this group. Unless he does, I'll kind of feel like I'm just there to do a job and not because he cares about me. You know he cares about you. Heck, he goes swimming with you almost every morning because you like it so much." Hinata stated. "I know. But I want him to be the one to make the offer, not you. Do you understand?" Isarabi asked. "Yeah, I do." "So, who were the other girls Imuto-chan told?" Isarabi scanned her memory. Besides me there was Kintsuke, Hakumamakai, Seisumi Fuma, and Futakano. All the girls we mentioned that night. Sounds like she's playing matchmaker rather than just eavesdropping." Hinata thought. "Oh, one more thing. I'm not sure if you already heard this, but your sister said she wanted a spot in the group too." Isarabi added. "What?" Hinata asked. Sure, she knew her younger sister gave the blonde boy the same sort of looks Hinata did, but Hinata always figured it was some sort of silly kid crush and nothing more. She can't be serious. She didn't look like she was joking to me. But she's only 10. Weren't you 9 when you first kissed Naruto-kun and told him you loved him? Isarabi countered. Are you actually in favor of the idea? Hinata asked. I don't really have an opinion on the subject. Let's face it, the odds aren't in her favor so there's no reason to fret over it. Isarabi answered. I guess you're right. Although there is a chance that Naruto might be interested in that kinda dash. Don't you dare, Hinata warned. Isarabi laughed. Alright, now that that's settled, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Isarabi said before taking a deep breath and submerging herself. Hinata started doing a few breaststrokes for no particular reason. For some reason I get the feeling that Isarabi-chan won't have to wait too long. Meanwhile, Naruto was sitting next to Teiwa at the northern gate keeping an eye out for trouble, all the while eating some ramen and making semi-inappropriate small talk. He usually did this with her at least once a week since she was the funnest Alto member to be around. And she enjoyed it too, enough that she actually bothered to tone down her language around him a bit. For those that knew Teiwa, that was saying a lot. "Hey Teiwa-chan, can I ask you something?" Naruto asked as he set his empty ramen bowl down. "Sure Naruto. What's on your mind?" The redhead told him. "Have you already been told anything about me from Ji-san?" He asked to start things out. Teiwa was part of a special branch of the Altos known as the Sound 5, their main jobs being operating the sound defense system and if need be defend the Sunin and all who reside in the Otokage Tower. So he figured there was a chance she was already informed about his predicament. No. Why? Was I supposed to? Let's just say something's come up, and it's got me confused. I'd love to hear an unbiased opinion. He explained. Sure. I'll help you out. She told him to build up his nerve. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm being ordered to have children with 9 women someday. Naruto said quickly to get it over with. For a moment Teiwa was silent, but then the dam burst. You've gotta be fucking kidding me? Really? Why? Because of my multiple Kekkei Genkais. If I have children with 9 women then I can create 9 clans for Oto. Makes sense. So, who are the lucky ladies? Naruto sighed. So you think this is a good idea too? You don't? Fuck Naruto-kun, most men would give up a nut to be in a situation like this. Being told to bang several different girls and having it be legal and allowed by the women too? Fuck Naruto-kun, I always knew you were a decent man but maybe you're too decent for your own damn good. Teiwa replied. I'm willing to try it out. I mean, I do understand the reasoning behind it all and Hina-chan is willing to try it too. Naruto defended. Teiwa arched an eyebrow at him. Then what exactly do you need my opinion on? How exactly do I attract more girls? And how do I keep them satisfied and taken care of once I have them? He asked. I mean, I need to treat them well so they'll want to stay and feel special, and once they have the kids I'll need to help raise them and care for the mothers as well. How can I do that with 9 women when sometimes one sounds like a huge job? On the outside, Teiwa just smiled warmly. But on the inside, she was practically cheering praise for the blonde. Wow. He actually already knows having several women like that won't be just a 24/7 orgy? And he wants to cater to them all like a decent person would? All of a sudden I'm hoping he's not put off by older women, even if the age difference is only 4 years. Well Naruto-kun, when it comes to attracting more girls, I'd say do what worked to get you your girlfriend since it worked so well. As for keeping them satisfied, and I'm assuming you mean outside the bedroom too here, treat them like you treat your girlfriend. Basically just go with what you already know works, just on a group. I have a feeling you can handle it even though it does sound tough. At hearing that, Naruto looked a little more at ease. Thanks Teiwa-chan. I'll try my hardest. Got an opening for me? Teiwa joked, and laughed when Naruto face faulted. I'm kidding Naruto-kun, but I wouldn't be offended if you considered the idea later on. Do I really even have to look for girls, or will they end up coming to me? Naruto asked himself somewhat nervously. Some more time went by and more grueling training went on for Naruto's team. So far, he had yet to approach any other girls about the prospect of joining his little group. And Hinata hadn't bothered at all since she felt the other girls would prefer it if he did instead, like Isarabi. She did consult her sister though first chance she got, and she still wasn't sure if Hanabi was serious or just joking. The hardest part was telling her no in a way that couldn't be refuted. For a young girl, Hanabi was a surprisingly good debater. On one particular day, Anko decided her team could do a mission instead of training. I think you guys just might be ready for a C rank by now. Think we really are ready? Isarabi whispered to Naruto as they walked to the mission assigning room. If we can handle Nachan's exercises, we can handle anything. He replied. Anko surprised them by taking them directly to Orochimaru's office rather than the general room to get assignments. Hey Ji-san. My team's ready for a C rank. Got any good ones for them? You sure about that? He asked. At her grinning nod, he checked his records of ones he didn't already give out. Oh, here's one that might prove interesting to you. But I need to explain it all before you accept or not. Go on. Okay, a small nation southeast of here called Land of Waves is the destination. I was immediately suspicious since Konoha is the closest village and the one they were most likely to hire for something like this. Apparently the client is someone who's connected on a bridge building project and fears something horrible will happen to the bridge and everyone working on it. They asked for non-Leafnin help because they feared the threat might be prepared for Leafnin. Makes sense. Tell me, how did they hear of this village? Anko asked. The client is downstairs so you can ask them directly. Wait. Someone from outside is actually here in Oto. Naruto asked. Orochimaru nodded. Yes. So keep an eye out on the client in case this is some sort of setup to draw some of our forces out and see how we work. Assuming we accept it, that is. Anko reminded the Snake Sunin. True. Also, given what we've learned from Jiraiya's spy network, it would appear that a tycoon named Geto is basically draining the country dry like some sort of economic vampire, although technically nothing he does can be considered illegal. Or if it can, then it can't legally be traced back to him. This request would give the nation a way to recover. But I personally think it will only truly work if Geto was eliminated, because he could still find a way to destroy the completed bridge if he wasn't. So the mission is simply return the client home safely, guard the construction workers, assist in construction if possible and necessary, and try to lure this man out for extermination. Anko asked to clarify. Orochimaru nodded, she smiled wickedly, and turned to face her students. You guys game? I'm up for it. Naruto answered confidently. If he is, I am. Hinata added. Isaribi just shrugged nonchalantly. Sure. Why not? Alright then, go get ready for it. Pack what I told you and meet me at the front door in 20 minutes. Anko told them all before they went off. Once they were gone, she turned back to Orochimaru. Not to doubt Yuji-san, but this sounds more appropriate for a B rank mission than C rank. Are you sure it's marked correctly? Technically yes. The official mission is just guard duty, something your team could easily handle. The other stuff I told you, like eliminating the threat completely, is just an extra voluntary objective. But a rather significant one if you ask me. Okay. And how likely do you think is the chance of Konoha Shinobi being in the area too? Anko asked, not wanting her team to deal with any if avoidable. Very likely. But surely nothing you can't handle by now. Orochimaru answered, understanding his goddaughter's unease perfectly. Okay, I'll still let my team give this one a shot. And I'll make sure not to risk starting a war with Konoha. But if they don't do the same, then no promises I won't enjoy myself. Anko stated. Orochimaru smiled. I would be worried if you said anything else, Anko-chan. Check the description for the links to the author.